I never thought I'd kill a man with his own lies. But that's exactly what I did to my father, slowly, methodically, until the grave he dug for me became his own. The body swap happened on a rainy night in that godforsaken motel off I-95, when desperation met some black market neurotech scam that promised escape but delivered hell. And now, staring at my reflection, his reflection, broad-shouldered and silver-haired, with those beady eyes that used to stare down at me like I was trash, I'm not Leah anymore. I'm the monster he always said I was, ready to burn it all down. It started with the money. Of course. Always does in America, doesn't it? Land of opportunity. My ass, more like the land of IOUs and foreclosed dreams. Dad had always been a schemer. The kind of guy who could sell ice to Eskimos and then sue them for the water rights. But when the casino debts piled up like unpaid parking tickets in Atlantic City, he didn't just gamble away his future, he gambled away mine. My college fund, every penny from Mom's life insurance after the cancer ate her alive when I was 12, gone in a flash of roulette wheels and bad bourbon decisions. 25 grand. Poof. And when the bank came knocking, he didn't confess, he framed me. You forged the checks. Leah, he'd whispered in that oily voice during family therapy, the one we were forced into after Mom died. You're just like your mother, reckless. The therapist nodded like it was gospel. And I was 16, too shell-shocked to fight back. By 18, it was federal wire fraud charges, because he'd routed it through some offshore app to make it look like I'd been running a side hustle from my high school laptop. I took the plea deal, community service, and a felony record, because fighting meant admitting he was the villain. And in our town of Milford, Pennsylvania, where the steel mills rusted shut a decade ago, family sticks together. Or so they say. But Dad, he thrived on the lie. Used the scandal to leverage a promotion at the auto parts plant, spinning tales of how he'd saved the family from my mistake. He bought a new truck, a Ford F-150 with leather seats that smelled like fresh betrayal, and parked it right next to my beat-up Civic, the one I drove to community college classes on a partial scholarship because the rest of my dreams were underwater. I'd see him revving the engine on Sunday mornings, heading to church with that halo of false piety, while I scrubbed toilets at the diner to pay for gas. God's testing you, kiddo, he'd say, clapping me on the back too hard. But you're tough. Tougher than your old man. Tough enough to end up in that motel. That's for sure. It was 2 years after the court hearing, the one where the judge finally cracked open the sealed records, his face twisting like he'd bitten into a lemon when he saw Dad's signature on every withdrawal. This is perjury, Mr. Harlan, the old bird had thundered. But Dad just shrugged. All folksy charm. Heat of the moment. Your Honor. Family matters. No jail time. Just probation and a slap on the wrist. Because, in America, white-collar crooks like him get community service too, golfing with a mayor. Probably. I walked out of there broke, blacklisted from every bank in a 100-mile radius, and angrier than a hornet in a hailstorm. That's when the whispers started. Milford's a small town, the kind where secrets fester like mold in the basement. Folks at the diner would lean in over their meatloaf specials. Heard Harlan Jr.'s got a side gig now, some experimental clinic up in Philly. Dad had always dabbled in get-rich-quick schemes, MLMs, crypto pumps, even a brief stint selling miracle water filters that turned out to be repackaged Brita jugs. But this? Neuralink Therapeutics, they called it. Underground outfit peddling body swaps for the desperate. Divorcees wanting to trade lives with their exes. Burnouts dreaming of youth in someone else's skin. Illegal as hell. but in the opioid-riddled underbelly of the East Coast.
Who was checking?
I found the flyer crumpled in his truck one night when he passed out after a bender, Pabst Blue Ribbon cans rolling under the seats like spent shells. Reclaim your life. Swap in. Step out. $10K cash. 10 grand. Exactly what I'd have left if he hadn't touched a dime. Rage boiled up like bad coffee. And before I knew it, I was on the turnpike, tires humming against the potholes, heading north. Philly shadows swallowed me whole, neon-lit alleys where hookers hawked more than flesh, and clinics tucked in strip malls next to vape shops. The address led to a nondescript door marked massage therapy, but inside it was all humming servers and electrodes. A tech bro with a man bun explaining synapses like we were in a TED Talk. Full neural transfer, he said, eyes gleaming under LED strips. Your consciousness in their body. Theirs in yours. Wake up as them debts, assets, the works. But remember, it's one way unless you pay double. I laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the sterile walls. One way suited me fine. I'd slip into Dad's skin, dismantle his empire from the inside, torch the records, seduce his bookie into flipping, maybe even whisper sweet nothings to the DA's wife until the whole house of cards toppled. Payback with a twist. Literally. The procedure was a blur of needles and noise, like being born backward into a blender. Strapped to a gurney across from Dad, they drugged him at the bar. The flyer said, "Easy Mark," his face slack and trusting under the anesthesia mask. "For science," the tech bro muttered, flipping switches. Pain lanced through my skull, a white-hot scream that tasted like copper. And then, nothing. Blackness. Vast as the Pennsylvania coal mines where Grandpa had coughed out his lungs. I woke up gasping, but it wasn't my gasp.
Keeper.
Rougher, like gravel in a garbage disposal. Hands big, calloused from years wrenching engines, clutched at the sheets. I bolted upright, heart hammering a stranger's rhythm, and stumbled to the mirror. There he was, Harlan Sr., 52 and fading, with crow's feet etched from too many squints at fine print, a paunch straining the hospital gown. My old body, Leah's body, slight and scarred from waitress shifts, lay across the room, stirring groggily under restraints. Dad's eyes fluttered open in my face, confusion twisting those familiar features into something grotesque. "What the foo?" his voice cracked, high and feminine, and I scrabbled at the restraints, nails digging into flesh that used to be mine. Panic surged, hot and unfamiliar in this heavier frame, but I clamped it down. This was it. The swap. I was him now, wallet in pocket, truck keys on the hook, and a lifetime of sins to atone for. "Sho. Leah," I said, my new baritone smooth as bourbon. "It's me. Your old man." Something went wrong at the clinic, some kind of mix-up. He stared, brown eyes wide in that heart-shaped face. "Dad, this ain't funny. Get these off me." The plea was raw, laced with the terror of a girl who'd already lost everything once. I leaned in close, breath fogging the mirror between us, and let the mask slip just a hair.
"Oh.
It's funny, all right. Real knee slapper. You drained my fund, remember? Blamed your own flesh and blood in open court. Now we're even, literally." The truth hit like a sucker punch. His mouth worked soundlessly. Then the screams started, high-pitched wails that security muffled with a syringe. They wheeled me, away to recovery, doped to the gills. while the tech bro handed me a clipboard. New ID. Harlan James Harlan. DOB 1972. All forged and crispy. 24 hours to bond, he said. Fight it. And your brain fries. Welcome to the new you. Bonding. What a joke. I spent the first night in Dad's apartment, a cramped walk-up above the plant, smelling of stale smokes and regret, pacing floorboards that creaked under his weight. My weight? The lines blurred fast. I rifled through drawers, stacks of overdue notices from loan sharks, Polaroids of Mom before the chemo, a hidden safe with 10 grand in rubber-banded bills, the swap fee. No doubt. And deeper, buried under yellowed tax returns, a manila envelope sealed with courtroom tape. The records. The ones the judge had cracked open. But not all of them. I tore it open, heart-thudding. Not just my fund, hundreds of thousands siphoned from the plant's pension, funneled to offshore accounts under shell companies. Dad wasn't just a gambler. He was an embezzler, cooking books for the owner. A slimy exec named Victor Kane, who ran the place like a feudal lord. Kane had covered for him once. But when the feds sniffed close, Dad pinned the big fraud on a rogue employee, me, in absentia, since I'd already taken the fall for the college scam. The betrayal sank deeper than bone. He'd sacrificed his daughter to save his skin. And Kane, that bastard, held the leash, pulling strings from his McMansion in the hills. Rage crystallized, sharp as shattered glass. This wasn't just payback, it was a reckoning. Harlan Sr., would walk back into that plant Monday morning, badge clipped to my overalls, and start unraveling the web. First, the little fish, charm the bookies, pay off enough to buy silence on the gambling, but plant seeds of doubt. Harlan's acting weird, they'd whisper, slurring secrets like he's got Alzheimer's. Then, the mid-level, seduced the HR gal who testified against me in court. Oh, the irony. Flirting in this body. Feeling her blush under calloused fingers. Get her to accidentally leak payroll discrepancies. But Kane? He was the whale. Power incarnate. With a private jet and politicians in his Rolodex. I'd seen him once. At the company picnic. All teeth and tailored suits, clapping Dad on the back like they were blood brothers.
Now,
in Dad's skin, I'd get close, invite him for golf, share war stories over 18 holes at the country club, whisper about loose ends, watch his eyes narrow, push until he slipped, confessed on a hot mic or in an email trail. And if it came to it, frame him with Dad's own dirt. Plant the safe's contents in his office. Anonymous tip to the feds. Controversial? Hell yes, destroying lives to right one wrong. But in America, justice is a DIY project. And I was handy with a hammer. The first week blurred into a fever dream. Waking up in his body felt like wearing an ill-fitting suit, too loose in the joints, too tight around the gut. Mornings, I'd chug black coffee from his favorite Steelers mug, staring at the stubble in the mirror, practicing his gravelly laugh. Morning, Harlan, I'd mutter, and it echoed hollow. At the plant, the shift whistle blew like Judgment Day, and I clocked in, wrench in hand, nodding to the guys who'd called me Leah the liar behind my back. They bought the act at first, slaps on the shoulder, jokes about the wild weekend. But I sowed chaos subtle, accidentally misfiling invoices that pointed to Kane's slush fund, lingering too long at the water cooler with whispers about big audits coming. Dad in my body was the wild card. They kept Leah sedated at first. But by day 3, He was lucid enough to rage. Calls from the clinic's aftercare line. This is Harlan Jr. I need to speak to my father, now. The nurses played along, thinking it was a bad trip. But I could hear the desperation cracking his voice, my voice. Leah? Baby. It's Dad. We gotta switch back.
I
didn't mean. Lies. Always lies. I hung up, heart twisting in this unfamiliar chest. Part of me, the old Leah, soft under the scars, ached to end it, to call the feds myself and spill clean. But the rest, the part forged in that courtroom, watching him smirk while I crumbled, that part hungered. By week 2, the crack showed. Dad escaped the clinic, slipped a nurse a sob story, hitched back to Milford in a stolen scrub top. He showed up at the apartment door one midnight, pounding like thunder, my slight frame trembling under his fury. Open up. You bitch. I know it's you. I cracked the door, chain rattling, and there I was, wild-eyed, hospital bracelet dangling like a shackle. Dad, I said softly, his face inches from mine. You look like hell. He lunged, but the chain held, and he sagged against the frame, tears carving tracks through the grime. Please.
Leah.
Whatever this is, drugs, prank, end it. I'm sorry. For the money, the court, everything. The words hung, heavy as humidity before a storm.
Sorry.
From Harlan, king of the half-apology. I could have unchained, hugged the shell of myself, called the tech bro for a reverse. Walk away whole, or as whole as felons get. But then I saw it, the glint in those eyes, calculating even in defeat. He'd say anything to swap back, then bury me deeper. No, I whispered, slamming the door. His howls echoed down the hall. You can't do this. I'm your father, until the super threatened cops. That night, I didn't sleep. Controversial decision number 1, abandonment. Let him rot as Leah Harlan, waitress with a record, scraping by while I climbed. Morning brought the plant. And phase 2, the bookies. Tony's was a dive off Route 30. All vinyl booths and the tang of fryer grease. I slid into the back booth, Dad's usual spot, and flagged the bartender, ex-con with tattoos snaking up his neck. Tell Vinny Harlan's here. Got a proposition. Vinny emerged from the office, Paunch preceding him, eyes narrowing at the familiar face. Harlan. Thought you were clean. I leaned in, voice dropping to that conspiratorial rumble. Clean as a whistle.
Pal.
But word is, Kane's got his hooks in deep. Plants bleeding cash. And guess who's holding the IOUs? It was a bluff. Pieced from the envelope scraps. But Vinny bit. Over whiskey's Dad's brand. Burning familiar down this throat, we spun tales. Kane's skimming pensions, I murmured. Harlan here's got proof. Wants a cut to stay quiet. By closing time, I'd flipped him. Anonymous wire to the DA. Kane's name in lights. Small fry, but it rippled. Whispers spread like flu in winter, overhead at the mill. In the break room haze of cigarette breaks. Kane called a meeting that Friday. All bluster in the conference room. Fluorescent buzz like angry bees. Productivity's down, he barked. Pacing in loafers that cost more than my old Civic. And I hear rumors feds sniffing around? His gaze landed on me, Harlan Sr., slouched in the back row, and lingered, probing. I met it steady, letting a twitch play at my lip, like nerves fraying. Just talk.
Boss.
Times are tough. He nodded. But I saw the calculation. The power flex. After. In his office, door ajar. As always for transparency, I planted the seed. Dropped a forged memo from the safe's cache, accidentally, on his desk during a coffee run. Pensions short, HJK accounts. His eyes flicked to it. Then away. Hook set. Dad's calls escalated, voicemails pleading, then threatening. Leah, if you don't fix this, I'll tell everyone. The whole town, your friends, that boy from the diner.
Boy?
Jake. The cook with the easy smile and calloused hands from chopping onions. We'd flirted over late shifts. Dreams of escaping Milford together.
Now.
In this body. I'd caught him eyeing me, the new Leah, hollow-cheeked and haunted, at the grocery. Jealousy twisted. Alien and sharp. Decision 2. Elimination. I met Jake at the diner after close. Harlan's frame filling the booth. Nursing a Coke. Harlan, he said warily, wiping hands on his apron. Leah, she's been off. Not coming in. Talking crazy. I nodded. Slow. Letting sorrow crease this borrowed face. Family stuff. But listen.
Kid, she's got a past.
That fraud rap, not all on her. My fault. Partly. The confession spilled. Twisted. Dad's sins as my own. Painting Leah as the victim I was. Jake's face softened. And by dawn, over greasy eggs at a truck stop, he was hooked not on me, but on saving her. I'll look out for her, he promised. Good. Let him anchor the ghost. It'd keep Dad leashed. Too scared to blow the swap. But Kane was tightening the noose. Monday brought the audit, feds swarming the plant like ants on syrup, badges glinting under the welder's arcs. Vinny had sung. All right. And the memo pointed straight to the exec suite. Kane hauled me into his office post-raid. Door locked. Scotch poured neat. Harlan, he growled. Ice clinking like chains. You dropped that paper? Denial first, shifty eyes. Stammered alibis.
Then.
Under pressure. The crack. All right.
Yeah.
But you knew back when we cooked the books. You covered for the kids' fun to keep me quiet. Lie layered on lie. But his flinch was real. Power shifted, electric in the air. He lunged then, hands around this throat. Rage boiling over. You little shit after all I've done? Struggled. Vision spotting. But I was stronger now. In his prime. Or Dad's prime.
Anyway.
Reversed the hold. Slammed him against the desk. Memo scattering like confetti.
Done?
You let him pin it on his daughter.
Me.
For your empire. The words hung. Controversial as a loaded gun. Mercy? Call the cops. Let the feds sort it.
Or. End it.
Push him. Hard. Into the plate glass window overlooking the shop floor. Shatter. Fall 80 feet to the concrete below. Accident. Tragic. I pushed. The scream cut short on impact. Body crumpling like a beer can. Alarms wailed. Workers swarming below. But, from up here, it looked like suicide, desperate exec. Audits closing in. I backed away. Glass crunching under boots. Pulse thundering in ears not mine. Climax hit like vertigo. Revenge served cold. But the taste?
Ash.
Word spread fast. Kane dead. Harlan Sr. The last to see him. Cops came gentle at first. Condolences over coffee. Jumper. Looks like.
You alright?
Harlan. I played shell-shocked, mumbling about arguments over numbers. They bought it, chalking it to stress. But Dad didn't. He burst into the apartment that night, my body, feral with grief and fury, brandishing a kitchen knife from the diner. Murderer, he shrieked, my voice breaking on the word. You killed him, for what? To be me. We grappled, blade flashing, this bulk against that fragility. Sliced his forearm deep, blood welling hot. Pinned him finally, knife clattering, breaths ragged. For everything, I gasped. The fund, the lies, the life you stole. His eyes, my eyes searched,
Pleading. Leah.
We can switch back. Clinic said reversal's possible. For a price. The twist landed soft. Then sharp. The envelope. Not just fraud. A letter inside. From Mom's doctor. Dad knew the cancer was environmental. From plant toxins Cain buried. He covered it. Took the insurance hush money. Let her die slow while planning the swaps as escape for us both. But he chickened. Used it on himself first, tested on me. The fund is bait. You poisoned her, I whispered. World tilting. Us. Not just betrayal, genocide of a family. One lie at a time. The reversal offer dangled.
But now?
Tainted. I could take it. Reclaim Leah's skin. Watch him fade in mine. Biologic justice. Or stay. Build on the ruins. Harlan Sr. Cleared name. Plant union rep. Fighting for the pensions he stole. Controversial end. Let the monster live. Wearing his face. Or mercy kill the swap. Dooming us both to half-lives. I chose the gray. Called the clinic at dawn. Wired the remaining cash. Reversal scheduled for week's end. Pain anew. But clarity. Dad sobbed in restraints. Thank you, baby. But as the drugs pulled him under, I leaned close. Don't thank me yet. Feds get the full tape tomorrow. Your voice. My body. Confessing it all. His eyes widened. Truth inverting, not just revenge, but revelation. He'd take the fall as Leah, felony on felony, while I walked as Harlan. Reformed. Untouchable. The procedure ripped us apart. Synapses screaming back to home. Woke as me, slight. Scarred.
Alive.
Dad stirred across. Hollow in his skin. Cops already en route with the recording. My gift anonymous. He went down fighting. It's her. She swapped us. But who believes a embezzler ranting sci-fi? Court again. Judge the same sour face. Perjury. Mr.
Harlan.
Again. Probation shattered.
Real bars this time.
I drove out of Philly in the Civic. Jake's number buzzing. Hope.
Tentative.
Milford shrank in the rear view. A scar fading. Happy? Tragic? You tell me. I avenged a ghost. But wore the devil's shoes doing it. In America, that's as close to justice as it gets. Bittersweet. Bloody-knuckled. And endlessly debatable. The reversal didn't fix everything, hell. It barely patched the holes. Waking up as Leah again felt like slipping into damp clothes after a flood. Familiar, but clammy with residue. My hands, small and steady from years of pouring coffee, trembled as I signed the discharge papers. Miss Harlan, the tech bro said, avoiding my eyes. Neural echoes may linger. Flashbacks. Identity slips. Call if it worsens. Worsens. like this was a hangover, not a solectomy. I nodded, pocketed the forged all clear, and stepped into the drizzle-slick streets of Philly, the skyline mocking me with its jagged promise. Back in Milford, the town buzzed like a hive kicked. Kane's suicide dominated the local news. Channel 6 van parked crooked outside the plant. Reporters in ill-fitting raincoats grilling the union guys. Tragic loss. The widow cooed on camera. All pearl clutch and practiced tears. Her Botox face cracking under scrutiny. I caught it on the diner's ancient TV. Flipping pancakes for the breakfast rush. Grease popping like gunfire. Jake slid a plate my way, extra bacon. His quiet solidarity and murmured, "Heard about your dad." Rough.
Rough.
Understatement of the century. I forced a smile. The one I'd practiced in the mirror that morning. Leah's dimples creasing just so.
Yeah.
Family. Right? Dad's trial hit 2 weeks later, fast-tracked, given the new evidence. I watched from the back row, anonymous in a sea of coveralls and curiosity seekers. Heart a drum in my chest. The courtroom smelled the same, polished oak and desperation. Fluorescent hum underscoring the DA's opening salvo. Harlan James Harlan Sr., charged with embezzlement, perjury, and conspiracy to defraud again. Dad shuffled in, cuffs glinting, his face gaunt under the lights, eyes darting like a cornered rat. When they played the tape, his voice in my body, slurring confessions over the clinic's line, it was poetry.
Yeah.
I took the kids' fund. Kane's cut of the pensions. Even the wife's insurance. After the toxins. Gasps rippled. The judge's gavel cracking like thunder. He spotted me then, mid-rant from the stand. It's a lie. My daughter. She did this. Swapped us. Some devil tech. The bailiff yanked him down. But the damage bloomed, jurors whispering. Crackpot. Guilty as sin. I held his gaze. Unblinking. The girl he'd broken, now the blade. Controversial? Letting him unravel. Labeling madness to seal the cage. But mercy's a luxury for the unbroken. I was just evening the scales. Verdict came swift. 15 years. Minimum security upstate. The kind with rec yards and regret. As they let him out, he mouthed it, Leah, plea and curse entwined. I didn't flinch. Drove home, through cornfields lashed by wind. Radio crooning Springsteen. Daddy worked his whole life for nothing. Truer words. The apartment waited empty. His Pabst cans cleared. Safe gutted and mailed to the feds as anonymous tip. I burned the Polaroids of Mom. Ashes swirling in the sink like gray snow. A ritual to exorcise the ghost. But the echoes? They crept in nights. When the mill's distant rumble mimicked thunder. I jolt awake. Convinced I was him, broad hands flexing. Gut heavy. Tasting the sour regret of his whiskeys. Once, in the shower, steam clouding the glass, I traced the crow's feet that weren't there, whispering his laugh to the drain. Identity slip. The tech bro called it. Trauma. Jake said. Over takeout Chinese on my lumpy couch. We'd started dating proper now, tentative kisses that tasted like second chances. His arms solid anchors in the drift. You're safe. Leah, he'd murmur, tracing the felony scar on my record like it was braille. Safe. A joke. With Dad inside. Maybe, but the secrets he'd buried festered deeper. Roots tangling in soil I thought I'd scorched. It started with a letter, postmarked from the prison intake. No stamp. Just Harlan Jr. scrawled in his chicken scratch. I slid it open over coffee. expecting bile, but found coordinates, GPS pings for a pull-off near the Delaware Water Gap. And a single line, truths in the deep. Come alone. My pulse spiked. Old instincts firing. Truth? After the tape. The trial? But the hook sank deep. Mom's cancer. The toxins. What if he'd held back? Shielded Kane's bigger berry job? I crumpled it. Tossed it. But by dusk, I was in the Civic. Headlights cutting fog like knives. Jake's texts pinging unanswered. Where you at? The spot was a overlooked turnout. Pines whispering conspiracies to the wind-whipped river below. Moon hung low, silvering the guardrail. And there, tiptoeing from shadows, was a figure in prison blues. Escaped or smuggled.
No.
A go-between. Wiry kid with nervous tics. Dad's old cellmate from a prior stint. Harlan sends his regards, he muttered, thrusting a duffel heavy as guilt. Said you'd know what to do. Inside, soil samples in Ziplocs. Lab reports yellowed with age. And a USB drive labeled Kane's legacy. I snatched it, breath fogging in the chill. And the kid vanished into the treeline like smoke. Back home, laptop glowing in the dark. The drive unfolded hell. Videos first, grainy cam from the plant sump. Early 2000s, workers in hazmat dumping barrels into the retention pond. Labels: TCE, dry cleaning solvent, PCBs, electrical waste. Kane's voiceover. Casual as a sales pitch. Cheaper than permits. Tell the unions it's fertilizer. Then the reports. Groundwater tests spiking carcinogens. Cluster cancers in Milford, moms included. But dozens more. Families shattered like cheap china. Dad's notes. Frantic. Covered for him. Insurance payouts to hush. Used kids' fund to pay off inspectors. Swap was for us. New start. Clean bodies.
Clean.
The word curdled. Twist inverted. Not just personal betrayal, but complicity in a slow-motion massacre. Dad hadn't poisoned Mom alone. He'd enabled an ecosystem of death.
Kane the architect.
He the loyal bricklayer. And me, the scapegoat. My fraud a smokescreen for the real heist, diverting cleanup funds to his vices. Rage reignited. But twisted now. Controversial calculus. Expose it all? Sue the plant's parent corp. A faceless multinational with lawyers thicker than fog. Heroes for the ghosts, Mom. The mill widows. The kids with leukemia scars. But cost? Milford's economy clung to that plant like ivy to ruin. Shutdown meant jobs gone. Town dying slower than the river. I chose the fire. Mailed copies to the EPA. Anonymous. With a cover letter in Dad's hand, pulled from his old ledgers. Confession from inside. Let him take the heat eternal. The madman prophet. Morning brought the feds again, raiding the plant at shift change. Yellow tape fluttering like surrender flags. Protests erupted. Save our jobs, signs clashing with justice for victims placards. Milford tearing at seams. Jake found me at the diner. Face ashen from the news. Leah. This, you? I nodded. Slow. The weight of it bowing my shoulders.
Had to.
For her. For all of M. He pulled me close. Coffee grounds gritty under our feet. But his eyes held questions, love or liability. This changes everything. They'll come for sources.
They did.
Subpoenas snowballed. Reporters sniffing my doorstep like hounds. I lawyered up, pro bono from a Philly firm chasing the headline, and testified in the civil suits. Voice steady as I laid out the swap. The secrets. The sins. My father built his life on bodies, I said. The courtroom silent but for the AC's drone. Now it's time to unbury them. Dad wrote, once more. From solitary. You win.
Kid. But the deep?
It swallows whole. Poetic. For a poisoner. The suits settled huge. Millions for remediation. A trust for victims' kids. College funds seeded fresh. Mine included. Ironclad. I walked out of the final hearing, check in hand, the judge's words echoing, redemption's rare. His. Harlan. You've earned yours. Earned. As if blood money laundered clean. But the UM lingered. Nights. The river called, dark waters churning secrets below the gap. Jake proposed one autumn, ring glinting like fool's gold. But I hesitated, echoes whispering his name in my sleep. Stay and build, house.
Kids.
The American dream repackaged? Or burn brighter? Expose more? A one-woman crusade against the Cains of the world? Debatable endings. Like all good revenge. Pyrrhic victory. Or the spark of something fiercer. I chose the road. Packed the Civic with maps and manifestos. Jake's goodbye kiss salt on my lips. Come back, he said. Maybe. Milford faded, but the tension coiled tight. Next town, next secret, next swap if the underworld beckoned. In America, revenge isn't done, it's reloaded. The highway unspooled like a vein under the Civic's tires, carrying me west toward Pittsburgh's steel ghosts. Then maybe Chicago's concrete canyons. Jake's text tapered, love you. Miss you. Call each a pebble in my pocket, weighing the what-ifs. But the drive cleared the fog. Milford was prologue. A petri dish of betrayal breeding bigger beasts. The EPA probe snowballed national. Headlines screaming, toxic legacy, how one town's secrets poisoned a generation. My anonymity cracked under the spotlight. A 60-minute segment dubbed me the whistleblower's daughter, grainy footage of the trial intercut with river drone shots. Toxins swirling emerald death. Offers flooded. Book deals from New York agents slick as eels. TED slots on corporate reckoning, even a Netflix true crime pitch. Swapped sins, a father's fall. I dodged most. Holing up in a motel off I-76. Laptop humming with research. Dad's duffel had lit the fuse. But digging deeper unearthed the syndicate. Cain wasn't rogue. He answered to Omnicorp. A behemoth spanning chemicals to agribusiness. Burying Superfund sites like confetti at a funeral. Their MO? Local patsies like Dad, loyal, expendable, taking falls while execs jetted to Davos. My swap story? Catnip for the narrative. But the real hook was the human cost. 147 cancers linked. Half fatal. Families fractured like fault lines. Controversial decision 3. Go public. Full Leah. No more shadows. I booked the TEDx in Philly, ironic. Full circle, and stood under those red circles. Mic hot. 500 faces blurring into judgment. I wore my father's skin for a month. I started, voice cracking just enough for authenticity. Felt his pulse quicken at lies. His hands shake with greed. But what I learned, monsters aren't born. They're elected by silence. By complicity. Slides flipped, lab reports. Mom's medical file blurred for privacy. Dad's tape transcribed. Gasps.
Nods.
A smatter of claps turning thunderous. Q&A turned brutal. Was the murder justified? One suit asked, eyes gleaming. Murder. Cain's push. I met it head-on. Justice delayed is justice denied. But in America, we DIY. The talk went viral, millions of views. X threads dissecting the ethics. Body swap revenge trending with memes of me in Dad's trucker hat. Captioned, who wore it better? Debates raged, feminist win or filial atrocity. Podcasters called. Dissecting the Oedipal vibes. While MAGA Corner spun it as deep state chemtrails. I leaned in. Guesting on Joe Rogan, 3 hours of weed haze and what-ifs, admitting the gray. Revenge felt good. Till it didn't. Now, it's fuel. Rogan nodded. Puffing. That's the American way.
Kid.
Burn it down. Build weird. Money flowed, advances. Speaking fees, enough to fund the Leah Harlan Foundation, scholarships for tox victim kids. Legal aid for whistleblowers. I set up in a loft in Fishtown. Exposed brick and river views mocking the Gap smirk. Jake visited once. Tentative bridge over the miles. Proud of you, he said, hands cupping my face, mine again. Fully. But the loft smelled of fresh paint and isolation. And his Milford stories grated. Town's healing, new plant jobs. Green tech. Healing. While I chased phantoms. Dad died 6 months in, heart attack in the yard. Official word. Unofficial? Poison whispers from guards he'd crossed. His last letter arrived COD. Swallow or be swallowed.
Kid.
Love. Dad. Enclosed. A key to a storage unit in Allentown. Coordinates etched on the fob. I drove solo. Rain sheeting the windshield like tears unshed. Inside, more barrels. Miniatures from the old dumps. Manifests tying Omnicorp to a dozen sites. Jackpot.
Or grave.
The climax brewed in D.C., Senate hearing on corporate liability. Me testifying beside teary widows and besooted lobbyists. MS. Harlan. The chairwoman purred. All Southern steel.
Your.
Unique perspective suggests extraordinary measures. Would you advocate neural transfers for accountability? Laughter rippled. But I deadpanned. If it means CEOs feel the fallout, sign me up. Flashbulbs popped. Headlines crowning me the swap avenger. But backstage. The twist gut punched. A leak. My name on Omnicorp's hit list, not metaphorical. Private eye tailing my drives. Brakes tampered on the Civic. They knew the key. The unit, Dad's gift, a Trojan horse. Panic surged. Old echoes flaring, his hands on the wheel. My will in the gas. I called Jake. Voice breaking. They're coming. He was there by midnight. Diner aprons swapped for resolve. We fight, he said, packing duffels. Fled south to Asheville. Mountains cloaking us like alibis. Foundation remote run via VPN. There, in a cabin smelling of pine and paranoia, we plan the endgame. Upload everything, videos, manifests, my full confession to WikiLeaks, timed with oppressor. Controversial apex, self-incriminate on the swap. The push, daring the feds to prosecute a folk hero. Drop day dawned crisp. Leaves aflame. We hit send from a burner cafe, then bolted, Interstate 40 East, toward the Atlantic's anonymity. Alerts blew up, Omnicorp exposed, whistleblowers' deadly secrets. Stocks tanked, CEOs subpoenaed. My face on every screen, wanted or vindicated. Sirens wailed distant. But we pushed. Jake's hand steady on mine. Twist reversed final. The call from an unknown number. Mid-North Carolina. Leah Harlan? EPA. Stand down, we've got it. Your father's unit? Bait from us. He flipped pre-death. Named names. Flipped.
Dad.
In his last lucid hours. Trading Omni for leniency. Ghosts allying against the machine. He said,
Tell you sorry.
for real. Line died. Static hissing like laughter. We pulled over at a Waffle House. Neon buzzing welcome. Happy? By tragic? The empire crumbled, suits settling billions. Sights cleaned, justice trickling like rain on rust. I got my ending, foundation thriving, Jake's ring on my finger. A kid on the way, echo of mom's fight, but fierce. But debatable. Always did I win, or just swap one cage for another. In America's grand, grim theater, revenge is the intermission dark, tense, lights up on the next act. The end?
Nah.
Just reload.